Time for the latest Martin and Marlow. This is the COVID-free edition, episode 11. And no intense research this week for special number 11. It's probably missing somebody out there, but Glenn Brummer, the great Cardinal catcher who stole home famously, I believe was number 11. That's all I got. But Chuck, I'm COVID-free. Had to get tested because of a colonoscopy last week. So the COVID test, negative. I did that whole where they did the Q-tip up. And the woman actually said when they go up your nostril, before she did it, she said, all right, this is going to go halfway to your brain. And I said, God, don't say that. Like, that added to the visual, just the mental image didn't help me. But you went through your health scare last week because you had the stomach flu. How about it, buddy? 2 of us, COVID-free. It's like a badge when you're a little scout getting your special badge.
Love it. We're both COVID-free. It sounds like your plumbing is all great. So that's good to hear. I'll worry about that 12 years from now. But I will say with the COVID swab, it was actually better than I expected. When you hear about the fact that it's being pushed to your brain, when you see the pictures from the sideways where they show where it sticks, you're thinking, oh, this is going to be terrible. I think for me, I wasn't fearing it. To me, it's more about if I think about that swab for the hours leading up to going in there, I'm going to basically create in my brain a fear this is going to be terrible. And I think because I just sat down and got it, I'm like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought.
And I will say the colonoscopy, very simple procedure. The day before, everybody tells you this, you drink all these fluids so that it kind of cleans you out. I'm in favor of anything that loses weight. So I was fine with that. A little uncomfortable. Get in there. It's early in the morning. Every medical procedure, it seems, and I've had very few. They even said surgeries, and I said maybe in 2005 I sliced my finger really bad, and they had to do a little stitching up, and I think they had to go back for a surgery. But very few times in the hospital. But it seems like you always have to be there at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. And maybe the doctors are just out golfing all afternoon. That's the stereotype at least. But I'm there, laying there, getting checked out, and getting the EKGs. They get you prepped. And the woman said, oh, are you going to be doing a kill coin opinion on the colonoscopy? I said, yeah, probably not. And then the anesthesiologist comes in. He says, sports guy, huh? And wants to talk Cardinals. And you've done morning radio a lot. I've done it a lot. Maybe it's laying there in the hospital. You don't really feel like breaking down the Cardinals at 7:30 on a Friday. But everybody was super nice. Even the guy, one of the techs, when they wheel you into the room for the procedure, he said, you look exactly the same as you do on TV, which I had to be honest, Chuck, I was a little disappointed. I wanted him to say, oh, you're taller, you're skinnier. I was hoping for a better review.
We get it. You're very recognizable. Everybody knows who you are. Everybody in the medical community knows you're the sports guy. We get it.
We get it. You have you can afford insurance. We get it. You can go for a colonoscopy. Very simple procedure. But I'm just saying, like in the morning, when you're in there, your mind's kind of on a million things. You almost don't really feel like breaking down anything.
No, I hear you. But how about this in all seriousness? Because everybody complains about their work. We all do it too much. How about the SAG-AFTRA health insurance? Fantastic health insurance, Fox 2, SAG-AFTRA. I mean that. I mean, it's about the best health insurance you can have.
I have to say, most people, when you turn it in, they're like, what is this? SAG-AFTRA? But it is connected to what? Blue Anthem or something? But you get a lot of funny, when you tell people that at first, they're confused. But you're right, very reasonable. And in a world where health insurance is a major topic, you know what, Chuck, that's a great COVID shout out.
Thank you.
Good for you. Not sure where to begin. Martin Marlow here on
I think you have to make the schedule no matter what, just in case you have a season. We've heard through all this, all the different sports. It's a fluid situation. You don't know when the season will start. Will they kick it to the spring? Who knows? I just think what's really interesting is college football, maybe more than any other sport, has this conference supremacy, especially with the SEC. And the SEC hates the Big Ten, especially Ohio State. Ohio State hates the SEC. This has been going on for years. Whose conference is the best? The Pac-12, nobody cares, and the Big 12, and Texas and Oklahoma. And it's very interesting to me that I feel like this kind of conference supremacy has remained throughout COVID-19, where maybe it's best for the conferences to have more of a unified approach. Now we've seen the players now saying we want to play. They have a unified approach from a Power 5 standpoint. But don't you feel like it's almost trending towards maybe the other Power 5 leagues say, we're going to push it to the spring. And the SEC's like, nope, we're not doing that. Maybe we wait a little bit. Like, couldn't you see the SEC being the only league playing football in the fall?
Yes. I mean, they believe, whether it's accurate or not, I'm not going to get your Big Ten argument going, but they believe they are it. They're the shit when it comes to college football. So wouldn't it be fitting and wildly interesting if they were the only league to play? I mean, talk about mammoth ratings. Even if, Mizzou draws Alabama now and LSU, not exactly the two teams you wanted to add to your schedule, but wouldn't it be must-see TV? I love the idea, and their schedule was always pushed back late September for the start. I'm not sure how you pull it off. I don't know what works anymore in this screwed up, world we're in right now. I would love that. Wouldn't that be the total SEC move to do that?
Absolutely. And my whole thing with college football, and also a little bit with high school football, this whole argument over the weekend, which I find fascinating, and people are saying, oh, all these media members didn't want college football to be played because they don't like Trump, and everything is political and all that. And my whole point is, the NBA, NHL is working because they have a bubble. Major League Baseball, you've had two teams with massive outbreaks. I think they're getting through it. I just don't see, with high school and college sports, even though college football has big-time resources, you're talking about 100 kids, you're talking about college campuses, and you're talking about kids who are 18 to 22 who are not nearly as mature as professional athletes. Even some of these professional athletes are doing things they shouldn't do. The Cleveland Indians just sent home, Zach Plesac, because he went out to a bar on the road. Now he has to quarantine. I mean, do you really think 100 kids, and it could be the kid that's the fourth free safety, he's the one that doesn't do something, he's not following the rules, all of a sudden he brings it back and you have an outbreak. I just think it's going to be really hard to pull off football. But then again, if we as a country, if we actually can get these numbers to go down again and stay down, and we can do this for the next 2 months straight, is it that out of the question that the numbers could be much, much better, let's say at the beginning of October? I mean, I don't think that's out of the question.
I would hate to be the coach, because every press conference, did you see Jimmy posted on his Instagram? Looked like there was a kegger the other night. I don't know if you saw this, but so-and-so had a TikTok, and it looked like they were at a backyard barbecue. I mean, to your point, if you got major leaguers who you're struggling to keep indoors and under wraps, and they have millions of dollars on the line, and they're getting paid to make these good decisions, to think that some 18, 19-year-old kid, I do think that's a huge risk. NFL, different animal. You don't hear much pushback there. It seems like the NFL is just blasting ahead. They're going to do this. They're going to get it right. And they do have massive resources to pull it off, whether it's medically, whatever. I mean, college sports, most of the teams have plenty of money, but the NFL is a different animal. I'd be surprised if we had college football. And Coach Drinkwitz might have to apologize to your guy, Kirk Herbstreit, because remember, it was back in, was it late March or early April? Herbstreit said, I don't think we're having college football. And it did seem a way down the road prediction to make. I mean, Coach Drinkwitz said, it's hard enough to predict who's going to win a Saturday night game. But I don't know, all the people who were – and I don't know that they were doom and gloom because they wanted to be. They just had a feeling it wasn't going to work. I think they may be proven correct.
And I also think that with COVID-19, I understand that a lot of people will then push back and say, well, do these folks have symptoms? Are they going to the hospital? Is it something that for the most part these young, healthy athletes get over? And I 100% agree with that. And we all know this virus is devastating to people who are unhealthy. It's devastating to people who are older. I do wonder, though, because just look at football players, whether it's college, high school, or pros. You have some big athletes who are 300 plus pounds. We've seen some issues with athletes over the years, whether it's being dehydrated at workouts. You have heart conditions in some cases with these guys who are 300 plus pounds. I just wonder also if football is the one sport where maybe one of these guys gets COVID-19. He's 300 plus pounds. It leads to some type of respiratory issue, heart issue. And I just wonder if that's the one sport where you could have some guys who get it that actually have much worse outcomes than some of these younger, healthier athletes that aren't 300 plus pounds.
Martin and Marlow here on the podcast, which you can now get on iTunes. We've made it available on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you download your weekly and regular podcasts. Just make sure you subscribe. Makes it even easier. But it is now available on iTunes. They had to wait to make sure we were legit, Chuck. Now we're legit. We're on iTunes. It's brought to you by, the conversation here brought to you by Triad Bank. They're located in Frontenac on Clayton Road, 1 block west of Lindbergh. Triadbanking.com is where you go online if you're a small business owner trying to get through these tough times. Make sure you talk to the bank that was based in St. Louis from day one, 2005. That's when they opened their doors. Triad Bank, easy to get to from Highway 40 and Lindbergh. And again, get online, find out more about this 5-star rated bank, triadbanking.com. And Marie de Villa Senior Living, located at the corner of Clayton and Weidman Road. For your senior years, there's no better place to be. It truly is a campus right down the road from Queenie Park. mariedevilla.com. You can take a virtual tour online. And the Chuck Thoughts, the Marlow Moments, are brought to you by
Chuck Thoughts. How about St. Louis Equipment? My guy Tim Jankerson. If you want to get a mower, a commercial mower, he has the best in the business. He also has St. Louis Lawn Care. They do a great job with my yard. Just came by last week and did some more seeding and weeding. Seeding and weeding. How about that? But this time of year, when it's hot, even though it's not as hot as previous August, we know it's going to be very hot. You got to take care of that weed, the nutsedge. The nutsedge is the annoying, high fluorescent green weed that everybody has in their yard, and it looks really bad because it grows taller than your grass. They took care of the nutsedge. St. Louis Lawn Care will do that for you. Also, of course, Kennelwood Pet Resorts. I'm watching Otis right now. He's on the couch. He's behaving. That's all because of Kennelwood. And then Corner Butchers. Corner Butcher in Fenton. Went there last week. I grilled a ton of meat over the weekend. They have these cheese-infused burgers. They also have these cheese and bacon-infused pork steak burgers that are fantastic. They kind of put a twist on everything. I even bought some chicken spadini skewers that they season, so I don't have to do any work. I just literally take them out of the package, put them on the grill. They do all the work, and they taste fantastic.
Was this pork steak burger?
It's pork steak burgers. Yep. So they basically create the patty. It's infused with cheddar and bacon, and you just throw it on the grill, and it's good to go. And they taste really good.
Hey, it's a Juicy Lucy. I think in Minnesota, it's called the Juicy Lucy. Anytime, the cheese infused burger. Look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Look it up, kids. Juicy Lucy. It sounds like some kind of insult. All right, Blues. Cardinals. Chuck, which one? Spin the dice. Spin the dial. Blues, Cards.
Let's do Blues first. Let's end with Cardinals. I feel like there's more to talk about, just big picture COVID-wise with the Cardinals. I did watch the Blues on Sunday. I also
Congratulations.
Well,
we get it. You can afford a TV.
Yes. Go ahead.
No, people aren't sure what to take out of going 0-3 in the round robin. I'm not that worried about it because it never really seemed to matter. The games, they mattered. They didn't count, whatever you wanted to say. Oh, it's for seeding. Well, it doesn't really matter because you're not traveling. There is no home ice. Now, you'd like them to play better. Binnington played really well for the most part. I think that gives you the most reason to feel good. But overall, they didn't look sharp. I just think a team that's played a lot of high-level games, this didn't feel like they were high-level games. I mean, unless you're the Blackhawks playing in a do-or-die short series where you had to win, I think the Blues look like a team that knew we got to get the rust off, but it doesn't really matter whether we win or lose these games. It certainly didn't win them, but I'm not overly concerned, especially with the pedigree of the team. Now, they may lay an egg against Vancouver. Who knows? But I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to lay an egg versus Vancouver. And the same thing that happened to the Blues happened to the Boston Bruins, a team that they played and beat last year in the Stanley Cup final. And that's another juggernaut type team where I just think these teams, they played 26 extra games last year in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They know the games that matter. These games really didn't matter. I don't think it's going to have a huge impact at all about who actually goes through the playoffs, the Blues are playing a team they were going to play anyway, right? If the standings held in the Vancouver Canucks. I think the Blues did not play that well. They played elite competition, Stars, going to about 30 seconds left in both those games. So two elite teams. I know the Vegas game, they got dominated. Even then, they were close in the third period. They're right there leading with a chance to win at the end of the game. The fact that the Blues haven't played well, they were missing some of their guys, and they still almost got to an overtime they did with Dallas. They're about to win that game until 30 seconds was left in the game. The fact that they were that close in those games and they haven't played well, I am not worried at all. I know this is a cliche, but I feel like the Blues will be able to flip the proverbial switch once the Stanley Cup playoffs actually start at beautiful 9:30 at night, so we can all complain on Wednesday night about a 9:30 start time.
God, doesn't it feel good to be complaining about it? Playoff hockey, it's weird because it's mid-August, but once I saw the schedule come out, I said, this is perfect. This will cue all of us complaining. What is this? A 9:30 start? It feels good to be complaining again. I got to be honest. It feels good. Mm-hmm. And I also think Berube's demeanor, like he hasn't been that pissed off. And if they play like this continuing, I mean, there'll be bigger consequences. But I think you can see it from him. Like, all right, we got through that. Now let's get going. Like, I think his tone tells you that he's not real. I mean, he's disappointed they didn't win some of the games, but you can also just tell from him that he knew it wasn't that big a deal.
No, it wasn't. And when you don't have a quarter of your forward lineup also when you're playing Vegas. And Jake Allen played well. I know Binnington in the Vegas game played really well despite giving up a bunch of goals because the Blues' total game was just terrible there. They're getting outshot 38-17. But when you're playing Vegas, I mean, did you expect them to beat a team like that when you have no Tarasenko, no Robert Thomas, no Ivan Barbashev? I mean, look at the impact that Robert Thomas made in the Dallas game right out of the bat with that shot, with the goal he scored. So I think when the Blues are full strength, ready to rock and roll in a playoff series, I also believe the Blues are built for a playoff series. Last year in the Stanley Cup playoffs, they went through 4 rounds. Every round was 6 or 7 games. The Blues, they're not this flashy offense. They're probably not going to score 6 on you. They don't have the Ovechkin. They don't have this amazing line that's just going to dominate you. But they will physically beat you up, and they'll wear you down with their depth over the course of 5, 6, or 7 games. I think the Blues are still built for the playoffs, so it would not surprise me. If they get rolling against Vancouver and they find their game, would not surprise me one bit if they go on another long run.
At least they're playing games, and we can complain about the start time, but boy, the Cardinals are going to go 13 straight, canceled, postponed, whatever you want to call it. The math is insane. You've played 5 games. The Atlanta Braves have played 17. I finally said last night, let's stop even figuring out how you can get them all. And it's like, whoa, they got 55 games in 42 days. I don't know that it's even possible. It's going to be a Chuck special. It's going to be a what's your percentage? Don't you think we're getting to the point where Major League Baseball will just have to accept the fact maybe only one team, maybe the Marlins also, maybe they get it caught up, I don't know, where they just go with percentage for the Cardinals? It's crazy to think you got one team who is on an island right now, and you can just feel it in every John Mozeliak Zoom that he is just demoralized, defeated. But you now have 10 players, right? Is that where our number is? 10 players, and that's a third of your roster that you were carrying around. I was encouraged last week because I thought they had kind of tamped it down. They had, stopped the spread, but clearly it didn't. It didn't, and you wonder, was MLB jumping the gun by saying, all right, you guys are clear, head on home, when clearly they weren't ready. They hadn't beaten it yet. I don't know what's next for them. I don't know how you make up the games. You probably don't. Maybe you just try and get back to playing and let baseball. Do you think the other teams will be okay with it if they just do a percentage for one team?
Well, I'm wondering if you're going to have to do that with the Marlins as well. I haven't looked at their schedule as much to see if they can make up their week or so games. I think you're going to have a situation because let's be real. It's going to get down to the end. Let's say if the Cardinals are right on the cusp, but they've only played 52 games. Another team has played 60. Maybe there's a doubleheader at the end of the season. Maybe there's a game that they want to rain it out. And if the Cardinals being able to play or not play could potentially push them over or keep them out of the playoffs, I think you're going to have some type of situation like that. Now maybe the Cardinals just are good enough that they don't make this a question. If they finally start playing baseball, they go on a run, and they're clearly one of the better teams, and the percentage-wise isn't even close, I think that would help the situation. But, yes, I do think this opens up to a lot of, oh, this isn't fair. But is anything fair this year? Nothing's fair. Nothing's fair in 2020. I don't even think the players will care as much. I don't think the organizations will care as much about the fairness. I don't even think a lot of the fans, I think they understand. 2020 sucks. Everything sucks. You have this virus. Like, nothing is going to be fair. They put in 16 teams. I would think that with 16 teams, you're not going to have this team that really should have made it that doesn't get in. I think you're going to have a fluky type team like the Marlins. Are the Marlins right now racking up enough wins that they can stay in the top 16? Are they really one of the best 16 teams? Now, I don't know, but I just think that this is a year where we can't look at it like, is this 100% fair? It's never going to be fair this year.
They just got to decide soon, because you'd hate to get down to the end and all of a sudden it's that second wild card or whatever, the 18th wild card, whatever it is, and the Cardinals edge out your favorite team or someone's favorite team, and they edge them out by percentages, and that team doesn't get in. You imagine how pissed off that fan base will be and say, they only played 51 games. This is bullshit. You can see it coming. But I agree, big picture, this year all the rules are stupid. All the rules are up in the air. It doesn't matter. Everything's different. But I guarantee if it goes down like that,
it will.
Somebody will be complaining, which gives us something to talk about, which is all we're looking for. By the way, Lane Thomas, the latest to test positive for COVID-19. Last I checked, Charlie, he's an outfielder.
Mm-hmm.
So you need an outfielder in theory. Is Dylan Carlson, is this pandemic going to finally force the Cardinals to do it, to bring him up? And on a related note, Dylan Carlson's dad on Twitter. Have you seen this? Have you noticed this? He doesn't say anything. He follows you?
Yes.
You must have had a pro Dylan Thomas tweet or something, because he doesn't say anything, but he retweets every article about playing time. And there was one in the Belleville News Democrat the other day, and it said something like, it's a crying shame, or it's absurd that this guy hasn't had a chance yet, something along those lines. And Dylan Thomas's dad, Dylan Carlson, sorry. Dylan Thomas, a poet? Dylan Carlson's dad retweeted it. This is not Colby Rasmus's dad. That's not what I'm comparing it to. But it is kind of fun when the dad, his hitting coach, his coach growing up, is on board with, hey, man, give my son a chance to play. I can't wait to watch the dad's Twitter account if Carlson doesn't get this call up.
Yeah, and there's nothing funny about COVID-19, but there's some irony, and it's just odd in the fact that everybody knows Dylan Carlson should be up. Everybody knows he's one of the most talented players in the organization. Everybody knows there's questions and holes in the outfield, even though Tyler O'Neill has had a nice start. But when you have this first wave of COVID, if you're Dylan Carlson, you're looking at the reports and there's not any outfielders. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm not trying to make this like a funny thing, but there was no outfielders. It was pitchers, it was infielders, it was Yadier Molina. And Lane Thomas now has tested positive. I don't know if that opens up the door for Dylan Carlson. I mean, I think he was going to be up anyway soon. I don't know. I mean, Harrison Bader has not hit. They haven't played games in a long time. I think right now you like Tyler O'Neill. At this point, with Lane Thomas out for, you'd think, a week or so, and Harrison Bader not hitting, I'm not saying he's done. It's only been 3 or 4 games he's actually played, but I think I would be cool at this point with, look, Tyler O'Neill in left, Dylan Carlson playing a lot of center. You can mix and match a little bit of him in right with Dex if you want to have Harrison Bader in center versus a lefty. I do think Lane Thomas being out should open up the door for Dylan Carlson coming up and getting some time.
How about some COVID shout-outs? First, PGA Championship, a lot of fun to watch. Great field, crowded back nine with a lot of people with a chance to win. This Colin Morikawa seems like a fun player to watch. Ballsy shot on 16. we don't break down golf on this show, but it was a lot of fun to watch it. And then, and you tweeted about it, the Wanamaker Trophy, which is one of those names we know, the PGA champion gets the Wanamaker. And this poor kid, Colin, gets it, and the top goes flying off like a fucking saucer. It actually made it better, like comic relief in a time when we could use comic relief. And I think Jim Nantz even said that's your only gaffe of the weekend. After just incredible golf, thank God the Wanamaker made us laugh.
That kid's a stud, dude. 23 years old. Hopefully this is the beginning of him being a big-time player on the PGA Tour, and we see him winning some more majors. I think that golf majors in prime time is awesome. I love these West Coast majors. I think it's awesome to watch golf 7, 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday. I think that's really cool. I also think the British Open, though, to kind of wake up and have that at breakfast is interesting. But for some reason, I just think the West Coast, being able to watch big-time sports, 7, 8 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday, I'm a big fan of that. And I also think maybe golf is the one sport in 2020 with the pandemic that, from a visual standpoint, I think it actually benefits the viewer to not have fans. And I say that because these golf courses are so beautiful. Imagine when we see Augusta with no fans. I mean, that course is so pristine anyway. You're going to see the flowers. You're going to see the trees. I just think watching this course and the beautiful landscape of Northern California, San Francisco, seeing the trees, seeing the water, seeing the nature without fans, I thought it was kind of cool. I thought it made sense.
Other COVID shout out, Chuck's done the deep dive, The Wire, which I didn't realize. I looked it up. It ended in 2008. My wife and I probably watched it in like 2015 maybe. So we were way late to the game, always heard about it. It just never sounded that appealing to me. And then you watch it and you get hooked. You can't help it.
I am hooked. I watched the first season, loved it. I was the same as you. I heard about this for years and people comparing it to Breaking Bad as the best television show of all time. Right now, I'm not there. I really enjoyed the first season. I'm 3 or 4 episodes into the second season, which they've all told me that the second season's kind of weird, but you'll figure out why they did it down the road. To me, it's not up in the Breaking Bad category yet. Maybe it gets there, but it is really, really good. And I heard about it for years, and I finally said, okay, we're in a pandemic, and let's do this. I've been trying to watch just 1 episode a night. That never happens. Like last night, I think I watched 2 or 3. And then if I really get into it, it's just going to take over my life. And next thing you know, I'm going to watch 7 episodes till 5 in the morning. I'm going to be totally even more unproductive at Fox 2 than I normally am.
The best shows have characters that you remember and you still even talk about years later. I mean, Norm from Cheers, Cliff Claiborne, Kramer, Seinfeld, George. But The Wire, I still remember Omar. You had Bunk, and then Stringer, and then Avon Barksdale. I remember his last name. Like, I remember all these characters. It was so well cast. And some of these people, you're like, I've seen them in other things, and they've popped up and stuff since then. But not necessarily a big name cast, but all of them have done stuff since then. But just, I think the casting is certainly the idea, the writing. And it was a local crime reporter, right? I think it was a beat reporter for the Baltimore Sun that wrote this thing. Imagine his life. He's a newspaper reporter, probably not terribly wealthy, and then The Wire just explodes. And I'm sure he's wealthy now because of The Wire. But deep dive into The Wire, I strongly recommend, Chuck, even if you're going to be less productive. That's the price I'm willing to pay.
Here's my one pet peeve. Okay, so as I'm watching it, and I know all these actors, like you said, but some of them you don't, so you start doing the research. Now, Idris Elba has totally blown up in the last 20 years, and he plays Stringer Bell. And Idris Elba is English, an English actor. And McNulty is also British. And I noticed this, even though he's a fantastic actor, he's playing this Irish guy who's a Baltimore cop. And I'm telling you, in some spots when he's doing his dialogue, you can just catch a little bit of a hint of that English accent. Like every once in a while, he just drops out enough for me to notice it, which I think is just kind of funny because you have an English guy playing the Irish Baltimore cop, the guy who's just kind of like your typical Irish American.
Yeah, I'm always amazed how many English actors though can assimilate and pull it off. I think it's easier. I don't know if it's easier for them. Maybe they're better at it. Like when Americans go over and play a British person, it just doesn't seem right to me, or it feels forced. The accent. You know what was weird? Did you see Knives Out? that show, movie?
I did not.
Okay, it's actually really good. It's kind of a modern day Clue where there's a whodunit, a murder in the house kind of thing. Just it's really well done if you read up on it. But the guy, who's the current James Bond, the British guy?
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig. He plays this detective, but he's got like a southern drawl. It's so weird. He's got this not Forrest Gumpish kind of accent or McConaughey kind of thing going, but because you know he's British and you've heard him normally speak with a British accent, it just it freaks you out. But there's the COVID shout-outs, Chuck. It's another episode in the books. Hopefully COVID-free for another week. Maybe some Cardinal baseball next week. We'll be talking. Maybe we'll get Dylan Carlson's dad on the show. Who knows? We're open to all ideas.
I love it. Great episode.
Great episode. Rack him.